All right, in this video, we're going to actually kind of discuss a pretty technical topic, but it's important for a lot of people out there that work in the security industry that you understand this. Now, this is not directed towards like a TSA or any aviation security element that is directly being run by that country's government. So like here in the United States, TSA is running the entire aviation security thing. Now, the airports are probably owned by the city or by an individual, what have you, but all of the TSA and security apparatus as far as the screening for check bags and carry-on bags are all being done by a federal agency here in the United States. Now that's significantly different than what you're going to experience at other places throughout the world. So most places don't do it like that. What they're going to have is the airport still is going to issue the contracts to a guard company or a security company to operate and man the equipment in all these checkpoints, okay? So that is being run or administered by the airport. And then underneath them would be a guard company who has been given a contract to run and operate the equipment at the airport. Now what may happen is the government or aviation agency, what have you, or for example, we use ECAC as an example, will say that you're only allowed to use these pieces of equipment. And then within your government agency, they may say, okay, we're going to use ECAC. You guys can go out and bid and purchase x-ray systems based on the requirements of ECAC. And that's kind of what's happening outside of the United States at most airports throughout the world, which is an extremely different model than what you have with TSA. Now, one of the other certifying agency out there is the TSA. So they have a TSA qualified products list, for what do you want to call it? And what's happened to that is that's turned into kind of a badge of honor or a certification that other agencies, government agencies, or other people who are purchasing will say, well, do you have TSA certification? And they'll put that in their specification. So what I'm about to say is what you need to understand is that it is incredibly important that you grasp this about what I'm going to say, and then we're going to get into the technical stuff on this system. TSA cannot be sued. I'm not going to say this again. TSA cannot be sued. TSA can say whatever they want about what equipment they want, how they do their screening, everything. And when they certify a piece of equipment and they issue the contract, they do the solicitation, the tender, they do everything, they can do whatever they want because they can't be sued. You need to understand that. Out of everything you're going to learn today, that is the most important thing you need to learn. So whatever TSA is doing, whatever their program office or their head shed is saying, okay, we're going to do this, at no point in that conversation is TSA worried about getting sued or a liability issue that may come at them where they'll get sued by all the families that died on the aircraft and end up paying billions and billions of dollars in settlements. Now, all the rest of you that are using ECAC or your government's running the thing and you're issuing the contract to a guard company or you're the airport, you are not TSA. You are not doing what TSA does, and you can be sued. That is something you need to understand because when TSA develops a system or puts the specifications out to those vendors, all right, they're doing it based on they're never going to get sued. So what ends up on this machine are some things that you probably have no idea are on this machine that makes you, unless you absolutely know it's there, that makes you extremely liable in regards to the system's performance and what it can and cannot do. Now, this may be fine with TSA and their certification process. They may say, okay, we're not worried about that. We have an alternative method that we're going to use to deal with that. And I'm going to give you a perfect example. The first example that TSA has where you don't, the most of you out there, is they don't allow liquids to come through their checkpoint. And when it comes to an x-ray system and explosive detection, that is going to massively reduce their false alarm rate. So their line's going to go much faster because they're not allowing the liquids to come into the location. Now, a lot of you overseas are allowing these liquids to come in, all right? And if you're using a TSA system with their software, their algorithms, their explosive detection, you're going to have a massive false alarm rate. Okay? And people have actually experienced this and ran into this problem because you can't operate a TSA system that's running TSA software or running TSA explosive detection algorithms at a checkpoint that's going to allow liquids in, because your false alarm rate is going to go through the roof, because all those liquids fall into the same window of where we see explosives. Now, that's just one example, and I've actually seen this happen with an airport in the United States, where most of the airports will do their security screening for the employees that work at the airport. The people that work in the food sections, the people that do maintenance, all these other people, they don't go through a TSA checkpoint. What they come through is a civilian run. Typically, the airport, the city, whoever owns it, is going to run that checkpoint, and TSA will come in and say, okay, you got to do this and that. But trying to operate under TSA parameters, like with one airport, they were allowing all their employees to bring in liquids and their backpacks with their food and everything. It's not an airline checkpoint. It's not the same type of stuff you're seeing at an airline checkpoint that you're seeing downstairs at these checkpoints. So a TSA model, or a system that's specifically built to operate under TSA policies, procedures, and what they want to do, is not going to fit that scenario. And that's something you've got to understand when you start doing this or buying something that's TSA approved or even ECAC approved. Because what you're going to find is those algorithms may not be providing you the level of detection that you thought, and that could be from procedural, or that could be in, I want the line to go fast, so I'm going to kind of roll the dice. And that's what we're going to talk about right now. So we're going to show you some things that I want you to lock in and understand. Next time you go to put out a tender or solicitation for a procurement of an X-ray machine, you need to understand this stuff. You cannot, I'm going to say this again, you cannot assume that because it has a TSA certification, or they've got it on some qualified products list, or ECAC has it approved on their qualified products list, that it's going to do and detect to the levels that you're thinking it's going to detect. That is the biggest mistake the majority of you are making right now at every one of these airports across the world, all through the world. You're making that mistake, assuming that when I buy that, somehow, some way, that has been blessed by these powers that be who are the experts, that it's going to operate and detect all the threats I want, and the only matrix you're looking at or measurement is a potential throughput. Okay, now I understand throughput. Throughput's important, especially for an airport. It has a lot to do with how many aviation airlines are there, what space they're renting, how many planes are coming in, what's the peak times, what's the flow rate, how fast we're getting people through the checkpoint. This all plays a significant role to that airport, which motivates them to want a system that's going to have a high throughput, and that means a low false alarm rate. Low false alarm rate. So if you're allowing liquids in and you're operating under a TSA like ATIC system, your false alarm rate is going to go through the roof, because explosives show up in the same windows that we see all of these false alarm causing items. X-rays, write this down, X-rays cannot tell the difference between materials that have the same density, same Zeph, that fall into the windows for explosives. They cannot tell the difference that this one is going to blow up, has a density of this and this. This one has the same exact density, same exact Zeph, but this one won't blow up. They cannot do that. And I'm going to show you the lie that they have been perpetuating on the market, these X-ray vendors, to try to sell these systems under the pretense that you're going to get all this detection capability without the false alarms. I'm going to cuss, it's bullshit. And unless you test, unless you verify for that procurement, you're going to be left holding the bag, because you can be sued. All right, so the first thing we're going to show you, this is a 6046 SI. It's from Smith's Detection. It's a single generator X-ray system, runs with a 160 kV, and it's got some of their better, based on how their detector boards work, it's probably now like second best. The 6042 IS boards are way better than this. Not way better, but better as far as the image quality. This one's got probably some of the best image quality that's out there for a single generator X-ray system. Now these are, again, extremely common. They're more common than the CT systems once you get outside of aviation. These are going nowhere, because this thing probably costs $30,000, $40,000, and your baseline CT system costs $600,000, and that doesn't include all the motorized tables, the secondary screening station, and the massive annual maintenance costs that you're going to pay in the comparison to something like this. All right? So we're not going to get too deep in that, but we're going to show you that this system and all X-ray systems provide you an image in what we call materials discrimination imaging. This is a standard. It goes back 30 plus years. It's how it's always been. It's based on the periodic table. It's based on the atomic number, the average effective atomic number of the material that's being screened. All right, so the atomic number, if you look at the periodic table, it goes from 1 to 10 are going to be your organic materials, and that's the number in the upper left-hand corner of the periodic table. 10 to 18 are going to be green, and then from 18 up to around 50, 60, and where it stops is where your X-ray stops penetrating that material, and that has to do with the kV of your X-ray system is how much it can actually penetrate. Most systems are going to be either a 140, most are now kind of getting up to the 160. So when you start getting close to the leads and the 70s and 80s, these 760 kV systems are not going to penetrate that. So the fourth color that you're going to see on those systems is going to be black. And that's the system telling the operator, I cannot penetrate this. It's too dense of a material. All right, so that's how these systems work. 3 colors, they call it materials discrimination, orange, green, and blue. Most of your organic explosives, pretty much all of your organic explosives, are going to show up in the orange range. So if you look at 0 to 10, which is the orange, 0 being the low end, 10 being the high end for organic, on this system, as it starts getting darker in an orange color, it's showing you that that material is increasing in its density and Zeph. Okay? So that's how it's done. It's a high and low energy measurement from the X-ray system through a dual energy detector board that's got a copper filter built into it to allow you to get you that high energy and low energy measurement to give you a materials discrimination image. Now on the CT system, they do it exactly the same. There's no difference. They're doing a high and low energy measurement to give you a materials discrimination image. The only difference between CT, I want you to understand this, what I'm about to say. The only difference between a CT system and this one, this is a single view, one angle, particularly from the bottom up. With a CT system, it's getting 360 degree views, 360 degrees. So where this system can only shoot it at one angle, the CT can get it at all 360 degree angles. All right? That's why it's got the big, huge thing inside of it. That's the gantry. It's actually spinning. It's extremely expensive to maintain, and it's why they cost $600,000+. Now the problem with this one is that there's something in line with your explosive material. Let's say this is my explosive. All right, it's in my bag. In my bag I got laptop, I got this, I got all this stuff. As that X-ray energy is shooting through this and comes out the other side, it's being read at those detector boards, that high and low energy measurement. Well, that measurement is going to be based on everything that it passed through. So it's pretty much next to impossible in that single view scenario for this to go, oh, this right here smashed between all this stuff is an explosive. So that's when they started developing systems with multiple X-ray machines or X-ray generators. And this was aviation. So you went from way back in 9/11, all these checkpoints were pretty much single view X-ray systems. We went from these to dual view, and then we went to the ATIC system, which is 4 X-ray generators at 4 different angles. All for the very specific reason, this is why it was done, to get an angle or unobstructed view of the potential explosive material so they can get a clean shot at it and get a measurement on the other end they know that explosive should fall into. Now this is, right now, just what I'm saying on how this works, you've got to realize that this is very hokey. Now first, as I get into this and I start showing you some things on how these measurements work with no clutter, no blocking material, you should understand that it is a freaking guess across the board. And it's based on a lot of factors that if they're not there, you're not getting detection. All right? So with a CT, 360 degrees, if there's some unobstructed view where it can get that angle on it, it's going to be able to detect the explosive. Now remember what I told you. X-rays can't tell the difference between this and freaking hand lotion if it's got the same density and same Zeph. It's going to call both of them an explosive. That's just how it is. And I'm going to prove that to you here. What happens though is on this scenario, they're able to get more explosive detection because they're getting more views and be able to pick this up in an unobstructed view. So higher, improved explosive detection, which translates into a higher fucking false alarm rate, because the same thing's going to happen to the shampoo, lotion, and all the other things that could potentially fall in that same window that were being blocked. Now the CT system's going to see it. So you're not going to get a better false alarm rate on a CT system, because it's going to get you a higher false alarm rate, because now it sees everything much better. And it can't tell the difference between an explosive and a non-explosive material that have the same density and same Zeph. I'm going to show you how they do it. And once I explain this to you, I will be shocked if any of you continue to purchase a $600,000 CT system base and then the gigantically expensive screening assembly with the tables, an automatic return, secondary screening station, and then the massive annual maintenance costs they're charging to maintain those systems, which break very often in comparison to a system like this. So if you get into mean downtime, you're losing lanes at an airport at peak hours, your go fast time is going into the toilet. So you want a system that's not going to break, and there ain't nobody that's going to fix a CT within the amount of time at your peak hours and get it back up and running. You'll be lucky to get that thing back up and running the next day. Almost guaranteed it may take you about a week or two to get those systems back up and running. All right? So, how does all this explosive detection work? All materials have a density and average effective atomic number. When it comes to organic explosives, we kind of have a pretty idea where they show up. And you can look this stuff up yourself. It's not classified. I actually went to TSL one time, a long time ago, and the guy there tried to tell me that the Zeph ranges for explosives was classified. That may be fucking classified to TSA, but anybody can figure this out. Because you pull up an SDS or MSDS, they're going to tell you the chemical ratios of all the materials that are inside it, and you can figure out what the Zeph of material is. And again, C4, we know exactly what's in it. It's 91% RDX, 90% non-explosive plasticizer. You can actually go up and look up the military spec and actually pull that up and actually see exactly what the variations are. There's not one C4, there's actually 4 different versions of military. And then when you get to the civilian sector, there's even more. So none of that stuff is actually classified. It's just something that those type of agencies want to keep hidden from everybody else. And it's typically because they're trying to write a patent to get paid on it for something they're doing. All right, so this is Delrin or acetyl, and it has a density of 1.41 grams per cubic centimeter, and it has a Zeph right about 7. Now, how does an X-ray machine measure that? It does it with a dual energy measurement. And this one has a built-in automatic detection software. This one's called XACT. So we're going to run this through the X-ray machine, and we're going to see if it will detect this amount of explosives. Actually, we'll use the big one here. All right. So we'll run this through the X-ray machine, and if the system is working correctly, we should get a detection for explosives. Didn't work. I've calibrated it. I know I've calibrated it, but it didn't alarm on this one. I don't know why. All right, let's try this one. Same thing, acetyl, but this is black. We'll run this one through the system and see if we get an alarm. This time we get an alarm. But it only alarmed on part of it. It didn't alarm on all of it. Why? Why did it do that? The X-ray energy that's coming out of this X-ray generator is not constant. It is not some perfect straight line level of energy that's the same every second. X-ray generators, the way they work, are putting out a package of photons. And how they rate an X-ray generator is based on the kV of the system, or the highest energy photon. Now this system is a 160 kV energy, X-ray generator, which means the highest amount of kV energy or photons that are coming off this X-ray generator is at the 160 kV. It does not mean that 100% of the photons coming off this system are 160 kV. Depending on the quality of your generator, you're going to get maybe a 10, 20%, just depends on what it is, of that being the actual high-end energy 160 kV. And every time this is doing it, every second, and if you pull up the line scope, and I'm going to do that for you in a second, I'm going to show you, it is constantly fluctuating, okay? Constantly. So that energy coming off this is never the same. It's never the same. I don't give a crap if it's a single generator, triple view, 4 view, or a CT system. Those generators do not put out perfect energy waveforms. Doesn't happen. All right? So we're going to show you what that looks like in the system. We're going to log in. We're going to go into diagnostics. We're going to go down to detector lines. We're going to go into the line scope. And we're going to tell it to start the radiation. All right, so what you're seeing here is 2 colors. One color is the high energy, one color is the low energy. And each one of these segments you see is a detector board inside here where the X-ray generator is lined up to shoot in all those detector boards at a very thin strip. So it's got a culminator on it that directs the beam. Now what's coming off here is not a straight line. It's not a straight line. It's all over the place. It is all over the place. And you can see it's actually moving, okay? It's actually moving. So that means the energy at the boards is never the same. So there's a wiggle there. There's a wiggle room that you're going to need if you're trying to do automatic detection for explosives, because already built into the system, is movement. All right, so the ATIX, we all know what that is. The ATIX had 4 generators on it. If you put it in service mode and you turn it on, you're going to see something you never saw before. That system is constantly calibrating. So on that screen, a cal block's going to come up on every one of those generators, all 4 of them, because it's constantly calibrating itself again and again and again and again. And the reason it's doing it is because these X-ray generators never put out the same amount of energy. So you're going to have a variance in that measurement of, if I just take pure explosives and run it through there, what you saw happen here is when the energy hit it on this part, it wasn't the same as the energy that hit it here. That's why the whole thing didn't automatically detect. That's why the ATIX constantly calibrates. This one doesn't. You have to calibrate this one manually. The ATIX, and you never see this because you're not in service mode, you don't see that that thing is constantly, again and again and again, calibrating it as long as it's on. And the very reason is for that variance that you have. That's your first problem with X-ray. You're never going to get a dead-on, accurate measurement every time. Ever. There's always going to be a variance. So let me show you the next thing. We're going to take this material, this is acetyl or Delrin, all right, and we've cut it into a step wedge. We know this is the same material, it's the same density, the same Zeph. The only thing that's different about this is that it's in different thicknesses. Now, if this system can measure Zeph and density correctly, we know what the density of this, we know what the Zeph of this is, this should turn one color orange. So as the colors get darker, it's telling you it's got a higher density, higher Zeph. All right, at 10, it's going to be the most dark color orange. All the way down to 0, it's going to be a light color orange. Okay? So this, all the same material, absolutely, we're going to run it through here. If it gives me an accurate measurement for density and Zeph, all should turn one color, because this is the same density, same Zeph, just different thicknesses. Okay, so we're going to run it through and see what happens. It's not all the same color. It's different colors. So as we see, as the thickness starts increasing, the color starts getting darker. So is that an accurate density and Zeph measurement? No, the fuck it ain't. And if you do this in a CT machine, it's going to do the same fucking thing. All right? There is no difference between this machine's measurement and a fucking CT machine that you're paying $600,000 for. It's going to do the exact same thing. The only thing it's doing is giving you 360 degrees of X-ray versus a single view. And the whole purpose of that 360 degrees is to give you an unobstructed view of the explosives. Now, there's a lot of technical papers out there that talk about X-ray and how the X-ray entry works and how the best way to do all this stuff and how you can, detect and vary between explosives and non-explosives. And what every single one of them do is classify explosives in a very specific range of density. And I'm not going to explain to you what it is. And this is going to piss a lot of people off. And I want to piss them off because you guys that are buying these things are getting screwed on a level that you just absolutely do not understand. All right. So, what is the density ranges of explosives? Now, if you go out and look at what is being published out there, you're probably going to find something that looks like this. Now, I'll put this up on the screen for you so you can see it. But this is going to show you any technical paper you start referencing, they're going to give you a single density for the freaking explosives. That is so wrong, it's not even funny. No explosive, unless it's cast, a cast explosive, are the only explosives that will have a specific density. Okay, so if you take ground up TNT and compare it to cast TNT, ground up TNT in a powder that's uncompressed is going to have a significantly lower density than a cast TNT. A compressed TNT that's not cast will have even a different density. And we're going to give you some examples of this, and we're going to show you on the X-ray machine. So what they all do, every one of them, because it fits the model. Now, why is somebody writing a white paper? Why is somebody writing a paper on X-ray detection of explosives? What are they getting out of it? Think about it. Somebody might have paid them to do that, okay? Because they want somebody like you to go read it and go, oh, it can tell the difference between explosives and non-explosives because of this density range. Explosives come in all different densities. It goes from 0.8 grams per cubic centimeter all the way up to like 1.7, 1.8 for the organic explosives. And each explosive can have massive variances in its density. They are not set, they are not specific, and they never were. And what they're almost always using when they do these analysis is the crystal density of the explosive. The highest fucking density that material can possibly have. And you want to know why they do that? Because that area is not in the same area where you have all your false alarm causing items. So if they sit there and tell you, oh, they're all here, they're lying to you because they're not all there. They are not all there, and they've never been all there. All right, so I'm going to give you an example of that. Right here on the table, sitting right here, I have actual one's an explosive simulant that's dead on accurate to RDX. The other one is actually ammonium nitrate prills out of tannerite, which is an exploding target. All right, so ammonium nitrate is probably one of the most commonly used explosives in the world. And if you go on any manufacturer's website for explosives, they're going to give you a range of densities. The wizards who are doing this stuff are going to tell you, oh, Ampho's at this, oh my God, density. They're full of shit, okay? Absolute, complete shit. So I've got one here that's in the prill form. Okay, you can see little prills. They call them prills because they're little white balls. And you've got two different versions of this, actually. You've got a high-density prill, and you've got a low-density prill. Imagine that. This one has been ground. It's ammonium nitrate, same and ground. It just filled to the top of this little 30 ml container. So we know the volume is 30 ml. And this one has been ground and smashed, compressed in to this 30 ml container. All right. So when we X-ray these, which I've already done, we're going to see what happens as far as the X-ray is concerned when they see it. And it's going to be these three right here. Try to zoom in on this for you. There's the three of them right there. And we're going to show you, and I'll put this up on the screen for you so you can see it, the density variance between these three, just on how we do it. And all three of these will fucking explode. Okay? So these assholes who are sitting there saying that the shit's all 1.65, they're doing it to sell this x-ray machine to you so you think you're not going to have a false alarm rate, because they've cut off everything below that. That's exactly what they've done, is they've cut off all those lower density explosives because they're lying to you and telling you that all these explosives show up in this super, oh my God, high density range, which is absolute, complete bullshit. It's a fucking lie from top to bottom. And I'm sorry about cussing, but these people are fucking ripping you the fuck off. You are paying $600,000 for a spinning fucking x-ray machine that can't detect explosives any better than this. And all they did to lie to you was cut off where they fucking detect the explosives. And I'm going to show you that, okay? I'm going to show you that. All right, so this one, we'll put this up on the screen. You can see that there's a massive variance in density between each one of those. So the one that's been ground and compressed had a weight of 36.52 grams. And if you do the math on it, it comes out to 1.2 grams per cubic centimeter. And if you go look this up, the crystal density of this ammonium nitrate is 1.65. That's nowhere fucking near 1.65. This is straight up, I can blow this shit up, add a little bit of aluminum powder to it, and bam, I got an explosive. And it damn sure ain't going to go much past 1.2. Not. All right, the next one is 0.921. That's ground and not compressed. The one that's prilled and not compressed is relatively close. But again, if you look at this, you see how all the air pockets that are in here? These systems work off an algorithm that's looking for a pixel range that's a solid fucking color. That color is based on those two energy measurements. So this is why a lot of times prilled ANFO doesn't alarm in these machines, because of all the air gaps that are inside there and because of how their algorithms work. I'm not lying to you guys. This shit, I see it all the time, and when I've watched these people get ripped off by this scam that is explosive detection and what they're doing on these systems, it's got to stop. And because you're not getting a better system. You're getting a system that's got the worst resolution I have ever seen in my entire life, and you're trying to convince yourself that I got a better product. No, you've got a massive fucking liability because you have no clue what this system can and cannot do when you're buying these CT systems. All right, so the next one we're going to look at is this actual RDX simulant, which is dead on accurate. So RDX, you'll see on these plots that they put out here, RDX shows up way out here in some 1.6 range, whatever. And this is what they use. They use the crystal density, which is going to be way above and beyond where your false alarm causing items are. And when you're sitting in a meeting and they're like, blah, 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 1.6 this and that, and we can differentiate. No, the fuck they can't. They cannot differentiate. They're lying to your face to sell you a $600,000 extra machine. All right. So in this one, we'll take a look at it. We'll move my little guy over here. That one fell over. And here's these two. One is compressed. One is not compressed. So when we look at the numbers for RDX, as far as their densities are concerned, when you look at the RDX one, the not compressed one is at 0.966. That's way below where they'll plot it at like 1.6, 1.7 based on crystal density. And that's way below where you see your lotions, shampoos, and all the other stuff that they're cutting out. They don't even look at 0.9. They don't even fucking look at 0.9. So from like 1 gram per cubic centimeter below, these machines ain't even looking. RDX can be at 0.9, and it will still blow up, guys. So what we do in the explosive community is by the density of the material, we can either increase or decrease the velocity of detonation of that material, which makes how it performs the work we're asking it to do different. So the higher velocity of detonation, when you start getting up to C4 at a density of 1.6, you're getting that explosive and fuel molecule extremely close together, so you're going to get a much faster burn rate, which is going to make the off-gassing faster. And in that sense, it's going to give you what we call brisance, more of a shattering effect. Well, if I don't want that, then I slow it down, and I get those fuel and air molecules farther apart, and that way I get more of a pushing effect because I've slowed down the velocity of detonation. That's why Every explosive has a varying density. They do not have set densities like these assholes are trying to convince all of you, or have convinced all of you. They never have. That's never been the purpose of them, and never how it works. It works for them if they're trying to make your line go fast by cutting off whole fucking sections of density, because they focus solely on the highest density levels of these materials. All right, so we're going to show you another thing real quick. This is paper. Paper. This is a Uline product manual. If you ever buy something from Uline, they're going to pummel you with these books. I take them and stick them in my bags that I use for training as a clutter. Works great. So I'm going to run this one through, and we're going to see what we get. Now, paper is an organic material. Paper is an organic material. I don't know the numbers off the top of my head, but it goes through. We get no alarm on that paper. So it's about yay thick, probably about an inch thick. We're going to take another Uline magazine, and we're going to stack it on top of it, and we're going to run it through the X-ray machine. Same paper, same stuff, okay? This one went all the way through again. Let's try it one more time. Wow, imagine that. It alarmed one time, didn't alarm the other time. How come that happened? I already explained to you why that happened. Because the fucking X-ray generator never puts out the same energy. And that's why the ATIX is constantly calibrating itself. So because of that, you can actually miss detections. Does that happen on a CT machine? You're goddamn right it does. Just like it happens on this one. So how often is your CT machine actually recalibrating itself? That's a very good question you might want to ask during your procurement, that you're doing a procurement for a $600,000 X-ray machine. So this one, called something that's not an explosive, that we know is the paper. It's all the same paper, same density, same Zeph. But when we stacked it and made it thicker, it couldn't tell the difference. And your CT machine will do the exact thing. However, it won't alarm on this because they've cut off that entire lower window, because they're only looking for the super high density stuff. Because according to them, that's where all the explosives show up at. That is not where all the explosives show up at. All right, next thing we're going to show you is they build these algorithms because they can't tell the difference. They can't tell that this is one material with the same density and same Zeph, it's just thicker. So when they create their automatic detection algorithm, they use this thing called threat mass. All right? What is threat mass? I'm about to show you. So they tell the algorithm that it must be, now they're not telling it has to be this thickness, it can't tell, all right? But they're telling that the thickness, they know when they shoot through this thick of material, they're going to get this measurement. So they've said it that this is the thickness we want to see it at minimum before we start alarming. All right, so again, Delrin, I'm going to run it through in a thin sheet that's about half the thickness. And again, this is the same material. There's nothing different between it. Same density, same Zeph. I think I'm stuck on the curtain. We measure this one. It comes out. That's half the thickness. We're going to add the other half to it, and we're going to make it, it was about a ½ inch thick. Now it's about an inch thick. And we'll run it through. Now it alarms. Welcome to threat mass. So if your explosives are thinner, it's not going to fucking detect. What good does that do me? What good does that do me? So already we know that the machine cannot tell you a material that we know the density, know the Zeph, in different thicknesses, it can't tell you that specific density and Zeph for that entire material. As the dense thickness of it increases, the measurement's going to change across that thickness. So they have to build in their algorithm that, all right, if it's this thick, we know we get this measurement. So at that measurement is where we'll start detecting for explosives. Anything fucking beyond underneath that, it is not getting detected. So here's a perfect example. Sheet explosive. Most of your systems can't detect sheet, right? So what they'll do is most of the scenes, they can't even detect this stuff. So this is about a 1/4 inch thick, which is pretty thick for sheet. Sheet may get up to like 8 mil, but 1/4 inch I think is well above that. But these things get down to 3 to 7 to 8 mil. It can get pretty thin, but to get the cap to set this off, and there's my blasting cap, and you set it on top like this, it's not going to work. They take another piece of sheet and stack it over top of it. That's how they get it to work, and they put it at one end. They don't put it at the fucking middle. They put it at one end, so the propagation of the explosive weight is traveling directionally through the explosives. And you need 360 degrees around that blasting cap to have enough energy to transfer it into all the other material. So this is same material, 1/4 inch thick. You should already know that this one is not going to detect as we run it through the X-ray machine. And it won't. My X-rays did not even turn on. We'll fix that. We'll fix that. All right, there's your 1 inch thick material. Again, I'm getting empty measurements here, which is telling me my generator is not putting out the same freaking energy. This is an old machine. And then this sheet, which is a completely different color, same material, this same thing will have, the same measurements will happen on your CT machine. So how are they telling the fucking difference between hand lotion, which is a false alarm causing item, and explosives? How do they do that? They don't. They can't. The only way they can do it is to tell it to cut off ranges of measurement. That's all they can do. So what they'll tell it is, if it's this measurement, which they know the lotions and all this other shit are showing up in, we're not going to alarm to that. We're only going to alarm to these super, oh my God, high density organic measurements we got from crystal density levels of explosives, which is complete bullshit. And then they walk into your office and go, oh yeah, we got this machine, going to give you a throughput of this. This is going to be the false alarm rate. If they say it's 20, it's probably 30 or 35 to 40%. Okay, that's already been measured out there with these CT machines where they're trying to tell you it's 20. It's showing up at 20 plus, 30 plus percent false alarm rate on all these machines, which is not that much better than this $160,000 machine. Okay, the CTICs. They can't tell the difference, so they cut off things. I'll show you another thing they cut off. So remember I told you that TSA does things different, and if you sit there and go, oh, TSA approved it, I'm going to buy that, and you're letting liquids into your location, you're screwed. There's another thing you're screwed on. It's called 3.4 ounce approved liquid containers. A machine cannot tell. Now, why do they want it so small? Why do they want it so small? And why do they not want the other liquids there? Start asking yourself that. It's because of the fucking X-ray machine. The X-ray machine can't tell the difference between all that shit. And when you start running all that stuff through there, it gets alarms. So at 3.4 ounces, they've limited the size of it and the pixel range so it doesn't alarm in the X-ray machine. I found this out the hard way at the U.S. Marshals because we screen judges' mail. We have to find very small amount explosives. And the X-ray manufacturers took the TSA shit and put it on everybody's fucking X-ray machine and never told anybody. Never told anybody. And then I went to them, firing them up like, what the F is this? They said, well, that's threat mass, it's classified. Why are you putting TSA's classified shit on my fucking X-ray machine? Answer me that. And that's exactly what's happening. So if you're buying something that's TSA approved, you're probably getting a TSA product given to you. Now, I went to an ASTM conference and screamed about this shit with TSA people in the room. And they went back to the vendors and go, stop doing that. So hopefully that's stopped. But if you're an airport, they're going to think, oh, airport, you want what TSA's got. And they're going to give you that shit and you're going to get fucked. So what happens with all these systems is they do a size cutoff for smaller amounts of explosives. Now we know this size, 1 inch thick at a minimum, is about the threat mass level for this system. So it needs to be at least 1 inch thick to fall into the window where it'll start detecting. Anything thinner than that, it's not going to detect. So we're going to take this 5 inch, 1 inch thick piece of Delrin and we're going to run it through the X-ray machine. We get an alarm. Good to go. We're now going to take the 4 inch, 1 inch thick piece of Delrin and run it through the X-ray machine. Good to go. 4 inches. Now, if you don't know anything about explosives on bomb tech, 4 inches of that, if it was C4, you're pink mist, brother. Nothing. You ain't going to the hospital. They're going to use a scraper to get what's left of you up from just 4 inches of that stuff. Gone. Pink mist. Your legs might be there, just like the bottom part of them. Your head typically will pop off, but the rest of you, pink mist, brother. Gone. All right, let's go to 3.5 inches. That one didn't alarm. So why did that one at 3.5 inches not alarm? Let's try it again. Didn't alarm again. I'm going to show you why it didn't alarm. This is your approved 3.4 ounce container. And look what matches fucking perfectly to it in size based on a pixel range. So this is what TSA does. They have whatever reason they want to do that. But if I'm screening mail and this opens, if the judge opens it up with this much explosive, that's 3.5, 3, 2.5, all the way down to 2 inches. I think even 1 inch, just even the blasting cap with 1 inch, just like just 1 inch of C4 around the blasting cap, he's dead. He's dead. So what TSA is doing don't work for the U.S. Marshal Service. And the vendor putting that on everybody's X-ray machine, to me, is fucking criminal. It's absolutely criminal. Now, when we look at all this, when I started this video off, I was talking to you about liability. You can't sue me at the U.S. Marshal Service. You're going to sue that guard contractor. You can't sue TSA, and you can't even screw the screeners. Who are you going to sue at TSA? Nobody. So they can do whatever the hell they want, and they're not worried about getting sued. So they can put shit like this on there and roll the dice and be fine with it. Now you, who don't have a government-run thing that can be sued, this is your reality. Everything I just showed you is going on because you're believing that this system you're purchasing is providing you the level of detection that's going to make sure you're safe. And if you're the liability part of this and you're having to pay for liability insurance on these contracts, you are taking a massive risk on this. So here's the legal part about it. And this is where you go to your general counsel within your companies, within your agency or your organization, and you start asking these hard questions. What happens if the machine misses the detection? Who's liable? Who's going to be liable? Well, who's the government going to say is liable? Who the person who did the screening? Who are they going to say is liable? Who issued the contract to the people doing the screening? Who are they going to say they're liable? Trust me, when this happens, everybody starts pointing fingers. It's not everybody sits around and sings Kumbaya. They're all pointing fucking fingers at each other saying, well, it's his fault. You don't want to be in that scenario and not have your T's crossed and your I's dotted. So, what do you do about this? The first thing is before you buy these damn systems, you need to test them. You need to test them and evaluate them based on their ability to actually give you a detection rate and a false alarm rate. And you don't do it with the vendor shit, because they're going to come in and absolutely blow smoke up your ass and do some circus show that's going to make you convinced it's all that in a bag of chips. Call your bomb squad. Call your military guys. Say, come in, we got a vendor here with this machine. We want to run every fucking explosive you got through this son of a bitch. And I guarantee you, as soon as you fucking say that, the vendors are going to shit their pants. They are going to shit their pants because they know you're about to smoke their X-ray machine. Now, or you can call me and I'll show up with all kinds of simulants that I can prove are dead on in the range where we see explosives, along with all the false alarm causing items, and I will do a comprehensive test of any CT machine that you just purchased to verify what it can and cannot do. And you are not going to like what I find. However, you are going to be able to go back to that manufacturer, go back to that vendor, and tell them, hey, what the fuck over. More importantly, for you watching this video, again, I want to apologize for all the cussing. But this shit ain't no joke. This is no fucking joke. We are getting fucked on a level that I have never fucking seen in my entire life. You guys buying these fucking 600,000 and even more cost machines are getting screwed. And you guys that are doing these contracts that are paying for this liability insurance, thank God you got liability insurance because you fucking need it. All right? You need it because these machines are not doing what you thought they were. You want to find out? Get a hold of me. I could either, one, come out and do it for you, or I could point you in a direction, put a comprehensive plan for you to go out and test these systems and hand them their ass. And then the next guy that's watching this who hasn't done the procurement, you need to stop right now and stop using some blessing that ECAT gave or TSA and just putting it out to bid based on those that have that. But you need to test the fucking systems. You need to evaluate the systems. You cannot rely on a TSA cert or fucking ECAT cert because they seem a whole lot as fucked up as TSA in regards to how they're doing shit. Half the times I just think ECAC's approving shit just because TSA approved it and ain't tested anything. But I'm telling you, these machines are not doing what you think they're doing. Your ATIX detects explosives better than your fucking CT machine. I'm telling you that right now. And that's, I ask you, if you bring in test objects, make sure it covers the entire gambit. Explosives go from 0.8 all the way up to 0.6. And most of them, most commercially manufactured explosives and homemade explosives that they're using are going to run in the 1.2 and below range. They're not running in this 1.6, 1.7 fucking range. It's bullshit. You need to test the low density explosives, bring in ANFO, bring in urea, bring in all this shit, and have them tested on your machine. You can get the bomb squad, you get your military to come in and do it. They'll do it, and you're going to shit your pants and keep everything at 1 inch thick. All right? Keep everything at 1 inch thick and run it through the machine. And then try thinner versions of it, and you'll see they don't detect. Do a size discrimination test. You can actually go out and buy a Cetal right now, 1 inch thick, cut it in different lengths, run it on any of your extra machines, and you will find a size cutoff on every fucking one of these machines. Again, I apologize for cussing. I'm a Marine. I cuss. When I get pissed off, I cuss even more. But the reality is this is the biggest scam I've seen perpetuated on the security industry, especially the aviation industry, ever. Ever. And it's absolute complete bullshit. It's criminal, in my opinion. I think people should be prosecuted for doing this shit and giving you these systems and not telling you the vulnerabilities that you're accepting. I know for a fact in a court of law, once you start talking to your general counsels and start explaining to them after you figure out, oh shit, this thing doesn't do what we thought it did, you got sold a bill of goods, get your general counsel in the room and start asking them, hey, what's our options here? We were under the pretense that this thing was going to provide us all this stuff and it's got all this hidden shit in it. That is a huge liability concern. And if you're bidding on these contracts, holy shit, brother. You need to train your people to not rely on these fucking red boxes. Period. Because if that's what you're doing, and I'm seeing a lot of these places, that's how the governments tell them, oh, this is what you do. If you get a red box, you just do that. Outside of red box, you let it go. They've assumed the liability in that one. You need to analyze all this shit to figure out, even if the machine misses it, whose ass is going to get sued. And if the government's telling you a procedure to follow, and it's throwing them under the bus, make damn sure, well, your OGC, your general counsel knows that, because they're the ones that are going to get their ass sued for giving you a procedure that this system couldn't detect in the first place. All right? But if you're doing the procedures, I'm telling you, if you're writing the procedures, do not rely on these fucking red boxes. Do not rely on these red boxes. You need to do X-ray image interpretation, and the problem with these new CTs machines is the image sucks. It is horrible. Okay? Apologize for cussing. It is what it is. Have a nice way. The more you know, the further you go.